What's going on there, YouTube? So, got the Blazer here, what's left of it. I'm going to do some upgrades today. First thing I'm going to do, these are my Lesu G5 axles that I painted the axle housings. I sandblasted the red and painted them black so they look a little more scale. These are very similar to the RC4wd K5s. They're a very scale and a little bit stronger axle than the standard Yoda axles. They just look a little nicer. But like most of you, I'm sure you just can't quite pay $300 for a set of the K5s. And these were 140 shipped a pair, so it's a pretty good deal. The front axle here has CVDs. It's got the universal joints on the hubs. It's a little better than the old rod end with the pin through it and the cup. It's, yeah, what you know what I'm talking about. It's what everything comes with standard. They are a little bit narrower than the Yoda axles, but I don't think it's going to be enough to notice. And if it is, then I can swap on some a little bit wider wheel hexes. But yep, I've got those to install, and I've got this GCM LRT-2 scale transfer case for the R4 transmission. And this is really cool. It bolts directly to the R4 trans. There's no intermediate shaft. So basically it puts it right up next to the transmission, and it's going to tuck it up a little bit higher, and we can pick which side we want to put it on. And yeah. That's one of the issues with these axles, is the pumpkin housing is on the other side. The Yoda axle is on this side. So I think that's gonna the way the R4 sits in the truck, it's perfectly centered where the shaft comes out. So it's either going to be a really far on one side or the other, depending on how you mount your transfer case. I think, actually no, the mount that comes on the truck, I'll show you that here next. It doesn't, you can't switch which side it's on. So, alright, so you can see here, your output shaft is dead center, so your transfer case has to be all the way to the side, and that puts your lowest point all the way at the side, instead of in the center of the truck where it's easier to not get hung up on stuff. So this transfer case mounts directly onto this shaft, and you can put it on either side of the other, and it only comes over about yay far, and it doesn't stick down quite as low. Now I'm hoping it doesn't cause me a problem with my drive shaft links. Hopefully they will still work, but if not, then we'll have to look at some other options. But yeah, it also makes your output shaft for your rear dead center in the truck instead of off to the side like the front is on this. So your front shaft's going to come out one side or the other, but your rear shaft's still going to come out centered. But we'll show you more of that once we start taking it apart. So first step here, I've got the Lesu axles ready to go. I'm just going to leave those tires on it for the moment. These are Gearhead 155, the same as what was on the Blazer. They're just all shiny. And these are some old RC4wd mud hogs. I picked those up from a friend of mine, and I haven't figured out when I'm going to put them on yet. We'll just leave them on here for now, see how they look on the Blazer. So I'm going to go ahead and start removing the axles. Alright guys, about 20 minutes and a few strip bolts later, got the front axle out. I did find this pretty funny. The stock little axle pin is bent. I'm surprised that it really had enough torque up front to do that. The other side's bent just a little bit, not as bad. It's pretty impressive the amount of torque these little things have. Yeah, this is the front. Went with the front first because it's kind of a pain with the you got your steering links and your shocks and your leaf springs to deal with. I did have one stripped out bolt on this side leaf spring. My little trick for that is I take a Dremel with my flat cutoff wheel and I just cut a slit right in the center of it, and then I use a big flathead screwdriver to get it started. That seems to be the cleanest way. You just cut into it for a minute. The stock hardware is pretty soft, so it's easy to cut right into with that cutoff wheel. So gotta get the other one on. It's gonna be even more difficult with the tires on. A few differences here that are we gotta look after. The shocks are slightly in a different spot. They're in a very different spot on the back, and I'm not sure how that's gonna work out yet. The shock mounts on the rear axle on the G5 axle are on the top, and on the Yoda axle they're on the bottom. So either we're going to get a little bit of needed lift in the back, or we're going to have clearance issues with our shocks being the way that I have them mounted. Another issue up front, well, on all four, the parts here with the your leaf perch, basically, those are not as deep. The RC4wd drive axles go through both cast pieces and out the bottom. These do not go out the bottom. So you've got to have precisely the right length bolt to go through. I've got 3 leaves and a lift block, so it's going to be a little bit of a challenge to get all that lined up and the right length. So luckily I've got plenty of spare hardware, so I'm going to go ahead and start trying to source that out right now. Alright guys, got the rear on and I'm running into problems with the shocks mainly. I'm not sure if you can see that. Get you a better angle. Focus, focus. Alright, so this is the G5 axle. You can see the shock mount is on top of the axle, and on the Yoda it's on the bottom and it's further away from the leaf. So that puts these shocks almost completely up, and they're hitting the leaf spring. Now the reason they don't fit well is because the lift blocks have moved the leaf up in the way of the shock. But I need the extra lift for this to carry the weight of this body. So long ago when I first built this truck, I swapped in this upper shock mount here. I'm trying to remember, I think it's just one of the extra cross beams that holds the battery, or the receiver box on. It's your standard trail finder too. It's the same as the one right behind it here, holding my ESC plate in. So I think I'm gonna have to swap that back out for the stock trail finder 2 upper shock mount, if I can find one. I should have an extra one around here somewhere, hopefully. So I'm gonna have to do some digging, and we'll swap that out and see if it helps. Alright guys, that took a little while. I had to play around with shock setup. I did swap it out. I believe these are 90 millimeters. The ones that come on it are 110s, and they're massive, way too long. I hope this doesn't make it too stiff and limit the travel too much. I don't know, it's hard to tell without the body on. I'm getting a little bit of unevenness, and I'm not sure what from. But I don't think those shocks are the same. That's weird. I'm gonna do some measuring here and see what I've done. Alright guys, so I swapped out some of the older scale shocks, not the ultimate scale shocks. So apparently I don't have any of the new ones in the same length. Now both of these shocks down here in the bottom came off the front of my red Hilux that I recently built out of I bought a ready to run chassis off of eBay, and the front shocks were not the same length, and I never noticed. That's what's sad. I changed out the shock towers on that truck to the Jalon 2 hoops, and it never set crooked. I don't know, it still worked somehow. But yeah, we're looking at I think a 90 and 100 millimeter, and Then these are the stock rear shocks, which are 110s. So I needed two 90s. I think I've got two 100s on there right now. I didn't measure them before I put them on. But at least it's balanced, same on both sides. Hopefully it's not too stiff, but we'll just have to see once we get it all back together. But now I'm going to move on to the transfer case. I'm hoping I can do this without taking the motor and transmission out of the truck. I don't know if it can be done that way. That transmission and motor, the V8, is not easy to get out. You basically have to pull your chassis rails apart to get the motor mounts out. So I don't know how that's going to go. I've got to remove the tail section of the transmission and swap out a shaft and a gear and put it back together. I'm hoping once I remove the battery tray and the stock transfer case, I'll be able to get in there. So, alright guys, so I've got the transfer case removed. I've got the transfer case mount, the transmission mount out. Probably will reuse that just if we can. The GCM transfer case bolts to, there's 4 holes here on the end of the transmission. So depending on how it sits with that, we may still be able to utilize those top mounts just for added strength. I don't want to have the entire assembly in here just hanging by the front motor mounts. So GCM just posted a video on how to install this, so I'm not going to go into a whole lot of great detail. I'll just kind of walk you through the basics. So we've got 2-piece housing, and it can be mounted either way. So we want our front shaft to drop on the driver's side, so it lines up closer to the axle. The first step is to remove the back section of the transmission, and we replace the shaft and the gear, I believe, with the new GCM units, and then we reinstall it, and then we attach our transfer case on here and load it full of bearings and all the goodies that they got and their own gears, and we're done. So it's pretty straightforward. I'm gonna go ahead and try to knock it out. Hey guys, I got everything for the transfer case opened and out, and I just kind of want to go over with you what you're getting. This was, I think it was like 104 Canadian dollars. It was around 85 US dollars. And I tell you, GCM, they don't skimp. They don't cut corners. This is super clean machining, super lightweight. And you got all new gears. You've got the replacement shaft and gear for the inside of the transmission end. You've got screws the right size. You got everything you need. Not sure where this long one goes yet. We'll figure that out here in a little bit. But really good stuff, really top notch. Like I said, they just posted a video about 2 weeks ago, right about the same time I ordered this, showing in depth how to install it and all the configurations that you can do. So check out GCM's channel. It's GCMracing, and check out their store. They've got some awesome stuff. It seems a little high, but if you're buying from the States, it's not. The Canadian dollar is more expensive than the US, so don't be afraid of it. Add it to the cart and see what PayPal converts it at before you know your final price. But I'm gonna get to work. Alright guys, so a little bit of issue here with the transfer case. The first step is to put your pin in the shaft and put on the first gear that goes inside of the R4 transmission right here. And I did everything like the video showed. His looked just like mine. The pin wasn't completely seated into the gear, and it wouldn't go in with just pushing it, but that's how he showed it on the video, so that's what I did. Got the transfer case on, and it keeps the main gear inside the transfer case from, it keeps it from seating properly, so your transfer case halves will not go together. So I had to take this out, put it in a vise, tap it down with a hammer, get the pin seated in the gear, and now I'm going to reassemble it all again. Should be working properly this time, so get it all back together. Alright guys, I've got it in and mounted, and luckily the stock mount for the R4 still clears the transfer case perfectly as if it was made for it. That the one little mess up, which was just my fault. I knew that probably needed to be further down on that shaft, that gear did, so. But I went with it anyway, so I had to take it all apart. And it's been about an hour, so. I'm going to start looking at drive shafts now. I'm afraid my rear drive shaft is going to be way too short. Since this is the output now for the rear, it is up quite a bit, which is going to add length. My front drive shaft should be fine. Just got to see. These were the version 3 Punisher shafts, super scale ones, so I don't have a whole lot of extras laying around. So if it's too short, I'm going to have to wait and order one, but I'm going to look at it and see what I got. Alright guys, I got it all back together. Yeah, I had to use one of my old stock plastic drive shafts for the rear because it is quite a bit longer. Let's see. The original transfer case is somewhere like here. So we're almost taking an inch out of the length of the back, or adding an inch to the length of the rear drive line. So I'm going to have to order find me a long enough shaft, a metal one. Front shaft is perfect. This is the rebuildable Punisher shaft that I had fall apart because I didn't Loctite anything. So I went ahead and used it up front. It's almost exactly the right length. Give me just what I need as far as movement. I'm not sure yet what I'm going to do. I've got my old skid plate that I made, but it is a little bit big now. I would like to keep all this stuff as low profile as possible, so here in an upcoming video, we'll probably make a new transfer case skid here, bring the angles on it down, because we can really streamline it now that that transfer case is so low. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and put the truck back together and get the body on and see how these axles look, see if they're noticeably narrower or what's going to happen with them. Alright guys, got it all back together. I'm not sure about these tires and wheels. They seem a little skinny. I really like my Super Swampers. They're not much taller, but they're a little bit wider. So, I don't know. For now, I just put those on there because that was what was on the axle that I installed. I'll show you a side shot here. I definitely need some a skid plate. I need to kind of make armor for that rear drive shaft because it's kind of vulnerable hanging down the way it is. Gotta gain probably half an inch of ground clearance. I'm not too worried about the front drive shaft because it's at a good angle. It's far enough forward, I don't think it'll be an issue. The back one's kind of vulnerable, so we'll have to make our skid plate have a little bit of protection there for the shaft. But yeah, and it is setting up a little higher in the back due to my rear shock fiasco, trying to get all that sorted out. And I don't have the rear bumper on right now, so I don't know if that will help with adding weight, lowering the rear down. I need to do some testing and tuning, driving it without the bumper, with the bumper, seeing what effects we've caused, seeing what's going to work better. Those axles sure are nice looking. And they're just a tiny bit narrower. It looks like a lot narrower on here because I think that just the tires are so narrow. That they're not, maybe overall a 1/4 inch narrower than the Yoda axles. So 1/8 inch on each side. Shouldn't be as noticeable as it is. I'm pretty sure it's just the skinny tires that are making it look a certain way. But that's it for this video. I'm gonna take a break here, have some lunch, and figure out where to go next. So anyways, thank y'all for watching, and please like, subscribe, and share. Follow along on Instagram, and stay tuned for more to come.